All right, welcome to your correction opportunity for test 810 ABC. Many of you have asked for a correction opportunity, and honestly, I was disappointed in the grades, so there's potentially many people that are going to want to correct. And this is the most efficient way, I think, that I can get you to do your test corrections. So I know it's not live me. You're welcome to ask me questions, but I'm going to walk you through what I want, and I am possibly going to walk you through several of the questions. So the first thing that you're going to need to do is you're going to need to get your little report that tells you which items you missed. So if this was your report, you missed item number 1 and you chose D as your incorrect response. You missed item number 2, etc. Okay, if there's a little plus, that means, like, for instance, this person got number 4 right. Okay, got number 7 right. 10 and 11 and 13 and 16 and 18 were right. But if there are letters, those are the incorrect responses that you picked. So if this was my little printout, the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to go to my test. It said that I missed number 1 and that I picked D and it was incorrect. So I am going to take a pencil. You're not going to see me actually do this, but this, I would mark out D for number 1. Then I do, all right, sorry, that was a little bit of a glitch. So my little report said I missed number 1 and that I chose D. I'm just going to take a pencil. I don't need to obliterate it, just a single mark through D so that I know that that's what I picked the first time and that I don't want to pick it again. And I'm going to do that for all of the ones that I missed. So for instance, I'm going to also need to go to number 2 and mark out B because that's the incorrect response I picked the first time. I'm going to go to 3, mark out A because that's the incorrect response I picked, etc. Okay? All right, then I'm going to start assembling all of the things that I'm going to need in order to help me answer these questions. So let me show you what I expect for you to have handy when you're doing these, okay? You have a lot of keepers that I have given you. You have the slides, okay? You have the keeper on density. I'm not sure that you're going to get a whole lot directly off of this one, but have it handy. You have the keeper on heat transfer. Again, I don't know if that's anything for this one that's going to be directly on the test, but maybe. Then you have this TEKS 810 part 1 on one side, part 2 on the other side. Have that handy. That's going to be very handy for winds and ocean currents. You have Keeper 810A. You have Keeper 810B. And you have Keeper 810C. I think that between those papers, you should be able to find information that will help you answer questions. So, for instance, I'm actually going to go through and do 3 of the questions in this screencast, and I'm going to do the 3 questions that were missed the most, okay? Let me see if I can find it. Yep. Okay, if you look at my little graphic, only 28% of test takers got number 9 right. Only 23% of test takers got number 11 right. And only 26% of test takers got number 12 right. So we're going to do 9, 11, and 12 together as examples. And so if those are 3 that you missed, then great. You have those 3 and we will do them together. So join me back on your test. We're going to go to item 9. Okay, question 9 says, if the weather map above shows today's forecast, which city is least likely to have precipitation in the next 24 hours A, Portland, B, Chicago, C, Memphis, or D, Houston? Okay, here is the graphic. This is the same one for both question 8 and question 9. So I need to figure out which of those 4 cities is least likely to have precipitation. Remember, precipitation is rain, sleet, snow, or hail falling from the sky. In order to have rain, sleet, snow, or hail falling from the sky, I have to have clouds in the sky. So I'm going to go look around and see what kind of information I have that can help me answer this question. And that's why I want you to have all your keepers handy. Okay, there are a couple of things that are helpful. Primarily, I'm on Keeper 810B, and I'm looking down here at high and low pressure. And it says high pressure weather is generally nice with few clouds. I go back and I look at this weather map. Denver is near a low pressure system, and Denver is about to get a cold front, and sometimes you can have storm systems come in with cold fronts. Portland is over here near a low pressure system. Memphis may be affected by this cold front, or excuse me, warm front. Houston may be affected by this warm front, but there's also a low pressure area in here. But Chicago is wedged in between these 2 high pressure areas. So Chicago is likely, because it's near high pressure, having very few clouds and nice weather. So what do I do to answer this the way that Miss Goff would like? First of all, I've crossed out the incorrect answer that I picked the first time. And I am going to put over here where I found the information that helped me answer this question. So, Keeper 810B, and it says high pressure weather is generally nice with few clouds. I'm going to write that down. And once I have that, I can see Portland's near a low pressure system. We want to go with Chicago. Memphis is going to experience a warm front and is a little bit closer to the low pressure system. So I'm not even, yeah, Memphis is on there, but that's not the best choice. And then Houston is near a low pressure system and is also going to experience a cold front. So the best bet is Chicago, with high pressure basically sitting on either side of Chicago. We're going to go with Chicago. Okay. So the situation here is a little bit more difficult than some other tests because you have to know this information, but that's not what the question is asking you. The question expects you to know this so that you can apply it to the situation. Okay. So that's number 9. Let's go to number 11. Number 11 says the arrow represents a plane flying north from Texas to Oklahoma. The pilot may experience some wind turbulence along the way. Okay, so here's the situation. First of all, you have to understand that the plane is flying north. Then you also have to know, and this is previous knowledge, you have to know your directions. This is north, down here is south, this is east, and this is west. If you don't know your directions, it's going to be very difficult for you to answer this. Okay, so now I've gotten my directions, but I need some information that is going to help me figure out this answer. So again, I'm going to pause. I'm going to go into my keepers and see what I can find. Okay, so probably the most helpful thing I have is this TEKS 810 Part 1 guided notes, because right down here, two very important statements. Number one, wind is created as air moves from high pressure to low pressure. So wind is always going to go from high to low. And winds are named by the direction they flow or blow from. Okay, so those are my pieces of information that I'm going to write down, and then I'm going to pick my answer based on that information. Okay, so I have written down which of my papers I found the information. So I need to know which paper and what's the quote from the paper that tells you the information. So on this one, it says wind is created as air moves from high pressure to low pressure. That is key for me answering this question. Here's a high pressure. Here's a low pressure. The plane is moving north between high and low. So the wind is blowing this way. From which direction would the wind be blowing? It is blowing from the east toward the west, and it's asking from which direction, and it's from the east. Okay, so that would be answer D. Okay, the next question we're going to tackle is, I think, question 12. It says, Hurricane Ike, the path of destruction. On September 13th, 2008. Hang on, before I read this, let's look at the questions. Why do hurricanes in the northern hemisphere move from Africa toward North America? So that is the question that we're trying to answer. We've got some notes that'll help us, but honestly, I think if you read this carefully, you'll find what you need in the passage itself. Okay, so it's story time, boys and girls. We'll read it together. Hurricane Ike, the path of destruction. On September 13th, 2008, Hurricane Ike descended on the coastline near Galveston Island at approximately 2:10 a.m. At the time it made landfall, it was only a Category 2 hurricane, but the devastation from the storm cost the United States an estimated $29.6 billion. The hurricane affected the coastlines of the Mississippi River and the Florida Panhandle. Basically, it affected all coastal areas that surrounded the northern part of the Gulf of Mexico. It was the third costliest hurricane compared to Hurricane Andrew of 1992 and Hurricane Katrina of 2005. Ike, like most Atlantic regional hurricanes, originated as a severe tropical storm in the equatorial regions of the Atlantic Ocean off the west coast of Africa. The trade winds steer hurricanes to the west toward the Caribbean Sea and the North American coastlines. The path of a hurricane is determined by global wind patterns and high and low pressure systems. The wind speeds of a northbound hurricane increase as the strength of the Coriolis effect increases with latitude. Hurricanes gather heat and energy through contact with warm ocean water of 80 degrees or warmer. All hurricanes rotate in a counterclockwise motion around an eye, which is relatively calm. A storm surge, which is a rise in sea level above the usual tide level causing flooding when the storm comes ashore, is usually the most damaging part of a hurricane. Okay, I'm going to stop because I have already read what I need in order to answer this question, and it's in this paragraph. Okay, let's go back to the question. Why do hurricanes in the northern hemisphere move from Africa towards North America? Okay. The trade winds steer hurricanes to the west toward the Caribbean Sea and the North American coastline. The path of a hurricane is determined by global wind patterns and high and low pressure systems. The wind speeds of a northbound hurricane increase as the strength of the Coriolis effect increases with latitude. Okay, so there basically is my evidence. So let's pick through the answer choices. All right, number 12 says, why do hurricanes in the northern hemisphere move from Africa towards North America? All right, first of all, here's Africa, here's South America, Florida, North America. All right, here's the equator. As you're looking at this, here's north, here's south, here's east, here's west. Hurricanes are going to form here and move this way. Okay, and maybe curve. The Coriolis effect and trade winds steer most weather patterns from right to left in the northern hemisphere. That is correct. That is basically what your reading said, plus a little bit of, hey, yeah, this is from right to left if I'm looking at it on a piece of paper.